Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Representing the Resin. My name is Jameson Wellborn, and today we are joined by my good friend, Gord Nichol of North 40. Gord, thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, it's good to be here with you.
Absolutely, man. Gord, you've done some really cool stuff in the Canadian space. You're one of the first micros licensed. You're one of the most vocal micros. Your platform of choice is Twitter. You've garnered quite a bit of a following over there. You've been able to accomplish a lot of firsts, and you're still here to tell the tale about it. There's a lot of stuff that I want to get into about your journey in legal cannabis, but before we get into that, I want to start at the beginning. So I want to learn more about you. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town just outside of Edmonton called Beaumont. Moved there with my parents. I was 3 years old, so 1968. There was 250 people living in that town at the time. It was a French community, and we were one of a few English families that moved into town there. So yeah, that's where I grew up.
That would have been quite an interesting upbringing. What took your family there?
My dad was a film editor for CBC. And he got transferred from Winnipeg, I believe, out to Edmonton, or took a job out in Edmonton. And then they wanted to move to a smaller town. Both my parents were farm kids and small town kids, and Beaumont was within commuting distance at that time. So that's where they ended up. So yeah, I grew up in a small French town.
So tell me a little bit, what was that like in the early days? What was, you're running around. Were you part of the social fabric that existed out there? Or were you kind of by yourself growing up?
Oh, no. I was really into the sports when I was young, baseball, hockey, football, everything. Yeah, no, there was no shortage. It was a friendly place to grow up. I mean, we're all just regular kids, just doing sports stuff and, messing around, doing stupid stuff. But yeah, kind of drifted away from that sports crowd when I found cannabis, not going to lie. I was one of very few people that, was getting involved in that stuff at that time. And yeah, no doubt I was shunned by previous friends and, families and stuff like that. I was definitely the black sheep of the town.
When did you become aware of the plant? Like when did that come into consciousness for you in your childhood?
I think it was like grade 8. There was some older kids hanging around and they had the weed, and yeah, just tried it and loved it, and it's been a big part of my life since, for sure.
Was it an immediate thing where, grade 8, you tried it and it was like, it was on from there and something you wanted to do every day?
Yeah, yes and no. I think if I remember correctly, and now you got to remember, we're going back a long time here. Right? So I think I took a break after I got into it just a little bit, got high a few times and that. And then I remember kind of taking a break because when I left Beaumont and went to high school in Edmonton, I tried to stay on the straight and narrow there, and beginning of grade 10, it would have been, and but it didn't last long. Yeah, no. And then after that, it's been every day. I think I missed besides maybe being sick or whatever, but my previous work life, because I wasn't a commercial grower right away and that. So we had, a guy had to work, and I worked in the oil patch. And so I led a double life because at that time, the oil patch, it was just alcohol, just booze, booze, booze. Anybody who took drugs was a pariah in there, and they, very not looked upon kindly. Ended up starting my own trucking company when I was like, I don't know, I would have been about 18, 19 years
Oh
old.
shit.
Did that, built a pretty good little company. We ran pilot cars all over North America. Had like my mom and my dad were running trucks for me and all my buddies, and we had a good little business going in that.
Was this this wasn't oil field business, this was just transportation?
Well, we were moving all the biggest of the big oil field equipment from like all the way from like Florida to the tip of Alaska. It was really cool. Like I cut my teeth in the oil patch when I was 16. I was swamping on a nod well, which is a big tracked machine that only comes out when the mud is, waist deep. And I was the dumbest guy on the lease because I was the one at the back of that thing pulling that big 1.5-inch winch line through the mud, hooking up buildings, moving to rig moves. And I think it didn't take long before I decided that, fuck, I got to be smarter than that tail chain. And, started getting into some other stuff. Did trucking. After that, I had a couple of kids, and that marriage.
18's young to start a company though, Gord. Like were you always very entrepreneurial or I know a lot of guys who went to the oil rigs when they were 18 years old. They weren't fucking starting companies. They were, pouring that money, into different places, but it wasn't into, entrepreneurial pursuits.
Yeah, I think I think I always have been. I don't know, and it might be because I'm not a very good employee. Maybe, like, I don't know. I don't know. I always thought that working for myself was always better if that opportunity presented it, and it did for a while. But progressing into my story of my life besides cannabis, about the time I probably was about I'm gonna say 30 years old. My marriage broke up, and I had 2 young daughters to take care of, and had full custody of them. And I had to get out of the trucking. Obviously, I couldn't keep trucking. So we moved up to Fort McMurray, and I took a job working for Suncor up there, doing a big expansion that they were doing at that time, and kind of found a bit of a good thing for me in the regards that I was pretty good at doing what needed to be done to organize these jobs and make the materials flow properly and stuff like that. And that led to some advancement and some other projects. So basically jumped around in the oil sands fabrication world for a couple of decades. Working for Suncor, did jobs at Syncrude, did jobs at Shell, stuff like that.
What specifically were you doing? Like logistics the whole time, or was
No,
it?
no. I started off in material management, just making sure that the right material was in front of the trades when they needed it. And these were big construction projects; they would take a couple of years. So there's a lot of planning for materials goes behind that. So got into that, and then eventually I got into project management. I got to do a lot of work for Suncor on their offsite fabrication team. So that was pretty cool doing that, running big jobs, spending lots of money. So I did that for quite a while, and then I ended up going to work at a fabrication facility. And that's actually where I met my partner now in my business. He's a silent partner, but he's there in the background. And in 2015, when the oil patch was going to shit again for must be the 4th time since I started in the industry, I just figured that I'd had enough and it was time to go do something that I really wanted to do. So we moved up here to northeastern Saskatchewan. I bought a bare piece of land in the middle of nowhere, and we basically homesteaded here. I brought the travel trailer out and the checkbook, and I started building. And built myself a nice little facility for growing some herb, and thought I had it all figured out. It was we were building the house, and my wife was working in Texas at the time, so it didn't matter where we lived. She would fly in and out. So I was having a hell of a good time. It was like the best years of my life. And I'll say this clearly. I was living up here. I was by myself, just me and my dog mostly. Wife came to visit, every 2-3 weeks. I was growing. I was fishing and I was hunting, and I had nobody to answer to here. It was like heavenly. I couldn't have been happier. So that went on for a couple of years, and then my friend Mr. Trudeau decided that he should make things legal, and it scared me into thinking that there was going to be this massive crackdown on enforcement on people that were growing, and I figured that when they started talking about 14 years of prison time, for growing. I didn't want any part of that. I'm old and grizzled, but I still feel I'm far too cute to go to jail at this point in time. It's only funny because it's true. Anyway, so that was kind of my journey to get here. Of course, I was leading a double life the whole time through all of that. Because as they can't have people in management positions smoking weed at oil companies. Like that's, heavily frowned upon. Different world, just a different world. It's an alcohol world. And that's kind of why I never really, part of why, I never found a home in there. Although for a while I drank pretty good with the boys. I hung out with this young group of engineers up in Fort McMurray, and we drank lots. It was probably the hardest time on my liver ever. Like it was pretty serious. But other than that, I've never been that fond of the feeling from alcohol. I always like to try and be in control, and I can smoke as much weed as God could put in front of me, and I'm still going to maintain at least the ability to behave myself, so but so that's where I'm at. And then of course it became legal, so we jumped in with both feet. I had my partner was actually my very last boss that I had in the industry at that fabrication facility, and I was a project manager for him. And he came up here ice fishing, and I took him over to my grow, and I said, "Fuck, man, check this out! Like you got to see this." And he was like, "Wow, like this is insane! Like you can do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Wow, it's crazy. It's good." I go, "The reason I'm showing you this, buddy," as I said, because they're going to make a special class of license, a micro cultivation and production license that I think that we should maybe make a run at. And I'm showing you because I need the financial backing. I've got the knowledge. I can build the facility. I can run it. I can sell the weed. If I must have done a pretty good job, because he got his checkbook out and got us started. So, with us remortgaging the farm here and stuff like that, we were able to scrape up enough money to get started, which was significantly more than we anticipated. I'm not going to lie about that. We had a shitty start. We had an air conditioning unit drip tray at the wrong angle, and we turned the facility on, filled it with plants, and then promptly bled condensate water into a ceiling in our mechanical hallway, and drywall was falling off, and it was it was a nightmare.
What were the initial expectations from you and your partner going into this project versus what it's turned into? Like we get luckily enough with being able to put the show on Bubble Man's World, we get a lot of viewers from all over the world, so not just Canadians. So explaining kind of the expectation of what you were undertaking versus the reality of what you actually undertook, I think is something that I'd like to touch on.
Yeah. We were optimistic, that this was going to be good. I mean, we were running numbers and that, and it looked pretty good. Till for the first while, and we were really lucky. Like when we came on, we were like one of the very first micros to the market, and people were ready for us to arrive. Like they were, and when we did, I remember like our first offerings, we had some green crack and we had some blue cheese, stuff that I had for years and years, and brought that in and delivered it to the market, and everybody loved it. It was a big hit, and it was good. And I think about now where we're at compared to that time. I mean, I was holding a contract in my hand, and I still laugh about this, from I won't say their name because they probably wouldn't appreciate that, although the company is no longer in existence. But I had a contract in my hand for $9 a gram wholesale. Like, I think that's the most lucrative contract anybody's ever held in their hand in the cannabis world. And I'll just let you know right now, I never sold a single gram to them or for $9 a gram. But when we did come in, we were getting $4 a gram and bulk, and that's all we were doing. And we had a smaller crew. It was okay. It was decent. We were carving out a living.
Is that the highest you ever got, Gord? Is 4?
No, I got a little bit more than that a couple of times on some other deals, but most of our deals have been 4, and I've tried to hold that line. It's a good number. It's a fair number, I think, and I think with proper management, I think that number should be survivable on a wholesale basis. No excise tax included on that.
Yeah. So I want to like slow things down and zoom in on these next few years. And I want to really talk about that first year of legalization or after build out, when you were first licensed, like, how long until that workable system at $4 a gram started to, you started to see cracks in the system or issues up ahead?
I guess at the time we were selling a lot to Agro Greens, which was Shelter, and we were starting to feel the price compression as more and more better product came on, from other growers. So I think we're talking about probably the end of 2019. I started to see the signs that we were going to have to do more, but it was always our plan to do more. We never were going to settle for being a wholesale. We wanted to do everything. We wanted to run our medical platform. We wanted to do our own distribution and stuff like that. So we were always gearing up for that, and that's why it was hard for me to tell how successful our company was until we actually had all of this integration built in and as much things happening from this facility as possible. So
what was the next? Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, I would say end of 2019, early 2020 is when we started to see that there was going to be problems maintaining these prices going forward.
Before I get into, I think I want to pause and change gears a little bit before we get into the issues surrounding the Canadian system and your experience with it. I'd love to touch a little bit on your cultivation methodologies. You use high pressure aeroponics, and I'm sure that's not what you started cultivating with. So can you talk a little bit about your journey in cultivation and where you started and why you ended up where you ended up as far as a methodology.
Yeah, sure. 1989, Peter's potting soil, buying it by the pallet and worried as shit on how everything was going to get moved around. And oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's where I started, like in dirt. And man, I think about the how far everything's gone since then. Like, when I came up here, I decided I wanted to try that high pressure aeroponics. A friend of mine was doing it in Salmon Arm, and he was having some pretty good success. And
You
oh, go
jumped
ahead.
though. I mean, you started in soil. Did you stay in soil for your whole career and then move to northern Saskatchewan and say, I want to go to high pressure aeroponics? Or did you did you work with some flood and drain systems with hydroton or, bucket systems or?
Yeah, I definitely went into the hydroponic for
Okay.
from the dirt to the hydroponic for a long stretch. And but when I knew that I was going to start fresh up
Yeah.
here, that's when I made the switch to the high pressure aeroponics. And even then it was based off of what my friend was doing up in Salmon Arm, and always thinking that I could do better than him, and not to ever discourage this guy because he's a hero in my eyes for just the journey he's been on. That's a whole other hour just telling the stories of my buddy Duke. But anybody else, there's probably people listening right now that know who I'm talking about. But anyway, legend, just a legend. He did. I could probably say this, that I think he got the longest license or sentence ever for growing cannabis, because he got 4 years just for cultivation. So, and he still says fuck you to the system every day. So, bless him.
That sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about what system you saw and how that inspired you? Because, and you keep referring to this high pressure aeroponics. Are you delineating between a different type of aeroponics?
Yeah. Okay. I'll try and keep on track. You got to remember,
Bro, I'm here. I'm here for you.
That's good though. It's good that you're steering me back onto the rails every now and again. I get going. I'll tell you 27 stories at once. Anyway, so we came. Yes, the system that I saw was like a low pressure aeroponics with kind of like, it was like just a little shot of water, kind of running constantly. It was bastardized hydroponic, in my eyes, just. But anyway, so I kind of looked at what he was doing and thought that I could do it better. So when I came up here, I started designing my system that I was going to use, and I was in touch with I can't remember his name, but he's the guy who invented a high pressure aeroponic system that went up onto the space station. So he designed it for NASA, and he's out of Colorado, real nice fellow, and he was. When I first started, I feel like I was just in elementary school. Like I just felt like I was asking stupid ass questions, and I was at the time. But as I gained knowledge and did a ton more research and stuff like this, I started to figure shit out, and I kind of got a bit of piping design knowledge and pumps and stuff like that. So, and pressure piping too. So I started figuring this out, and I had a really good guy who was helping me from a pump and piping supply place, and we just designed this thing right from like everything. Everything is our design, and we learned a lot in the beginning when we plugged everything together to see if everything was going to work. But we eventually have now got this thing dialed in like tight. Like it's so tight that I can't even risk introducing a new nutrient line or supplement or anything, just because I don't dare upset the basket, because it doesn't take much when you're running this fast. A little bump on the road and you're in the ditch upside down. So yeah, but yeah, we're hitting those roots with under a 50 micron droplet every 43 seconds for 12 seconds, and we got it dialed in. We know how much water we got to move to deliver it at the right temperature, and we've got oxygen meters running and everything, and yeah, I don't know what else we can do, to get it any further, and I'm actually not even trying. Now I'm just trying to focus on just consistent. We still learn things every crop, and we still have failures. I ripped out a crop 3 days ago, 4 days ago, root rot. Week 3, when them roots hit the bottom of that chamber, if everything's not perfect, it starts. But now at least I can see it so early that and I always have backup clones ready. So yeah. But yeah, it's a hell of a thing. I love it. Like you're giving, the plants can respond so fast in this situation, right? And that's a positive and a negative. But we're getting really good at pulling the positive out of our system.
So are you seeing, like, what are the characteristics of a high pressure aeroponic system? Is it just accelerated growth throughout, more vigorous growth throughout, or do you see it more in vegetative or flower? Like, is there a marked improvement in one more than the other?
I don't know. I'm going to sound like a conceited asshole here, but everything's better. Everything's better, and like people are gonna have grow higher percentage weed, and they're catching up or passing me now. But I'm consistently delivering like 29% THC weed with 3 to 4% terps. Sometimes I touch 5, and I'm getting 150 grams of plant up to 260 grams of plant. And what more could I ask for? Like, and you know what, I don't know what more I could ask for. It's fast, it's efficient, my facility stays clean, there's no dirt in there anywhere. I'm in love with it. I can't imagine changing. Sometimes I think about it because shit will start going wrong. Like, we went through some shit here, some real problems, and there were some steep learning curves to be made when we turned this place on, and it continues to be like, it's not like, that lasted 6 months or a year. No, man, it still goes on today. I just, like I said, like,
Yeah.
those clones, I think, were a little bit late being put in. Like, they were sitting in the trays just a hair long, and that's because a long weekend fell in there, and I had nobody to turn the room around, because it takes us a few days to tear that room completely apart, sanitize everything, put it back together. There's a shit ton of moving parts in there and piping and stuff like that. It's a real effort. I'd like to do a time lapse of that one time on camera. It'd be phenomenal to watch, like, all the shit that people that got to go in and out of there, and the cleaning and all the stuff that we do to make sure that thing is squeaky clean when we turn it on.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, a lot of this is cleaning. I was talking Dark Land Flower the other day, and I said 70% of our time is spent cleaning. And I can definitely understand that sentiment. So I want to talk about genetics. What are you currently running?
Right now we have our El Gordo and Frequent Flyer, which are two from Oco that we're running pretty hard now. The El Gordo in fact, our whole facility, all 7 grow rooms were El Gordo until a couple of days ago. We started rolling out some newer stuff, but it's really popular and it's really good. And I'll keep smashing it until people don't want it. It's a good grower for us. It's not like farm gas was a bitch. Like, it was a really popular weed and a really good weed, and I love it. But it was a bitch to grow. It was tall, wispy. like if you walked into that room and you sneezed, that fucking room caught a cold. Like it had zero resistance to anything, or very low resistance anyhow. So yeah, it was a challenge to grow. But anyway, so now we got El Gordo Frequent Flyer, which is our kind of our latest rollout. I've got another one sitting in cure right now called Ariba. It's another kind of a it's got some skunk lineage in it, but it's fuely and that, and it was a bushy bitch, so we're not going to grow it again. I haven't even given it. I wasn't even going to give it a name. I was going to sell it bulk, but the demand for pre rolls is crazy right now, and these things are going to make awesome pre rolls. So we're just going to fuck pre rolls, and then we're coming back with our rainbow pie and oh, the most exciting thing for me on a personal note, I got 30 blue cheese plants in about, I don't know, 2 weeks of flower right now. It's always been one of my favorites. I've had this cut with me for years, and we sent it to tissue culture. We brought it back, and so we're going to bud that out, and I'm really excited about that because I think that we're much better growers now, and I want to see what we can do. I know it's not going to be a smash hit. It's 20% THC, a couple percent terps, but I just love it. Like, it's my personal favorite. And if I have to smoke all 30 plants myself, I will. Like,
is it true to the name? Like, is it a cheesy blueberry?
Yeah, it's blueberry by UK Cheese. Jordan of the Islands was the breeder of that. So yeah, it's a really nice. And I think I don't know. I haven't tried any other cuts of it. So I don't know if mine is outstanding or whatever, but it's always done the trick for me. It's like I smoke a joint of that, I get a beautiful high every time. So, and I love the taste. I love the smell. It's just a great weed. So, yeah, it's.
What are some of those other cultivars that, where do you lean as personal preference? Are you into those more fruity, exotic flavors, or do you tend to lean more towards like gas and earth and things like that?
Yeah, I'm a gas and earth and fuel, and the fruity ones just I think they're nice. I think the flavor is nice in that, but something's missing for me in the high with those ones. It just doesn't work for me as well. And I grew some black cherry punch that tested out at black cherry punch that tested out at 32.8%. And I was all excited to try this and smoking this stuff. And I'm like, man, this could be 20%. And, it just didn't feel like it. It should have hit way harder than it was. But that's just me because other people lost their mind over that weed. They loved it.
Yeah.
But so that kind of tells you a little bit about how individuals have different.
For sure. And I also think people are influenced by what they see on the package. I don't feel that the terpene percentage is or cannabinoid percentage is a true correlation of anything. Because what terpenes and what minor terpenes are and esters and all these other compounds are present in effect, because we've all had those cultivars of our younger years that we've gotten tested, and they're like 14%, 16% soft and wet, and you're never going to get them higher. And you're like, this is the cat's pajamas. Like, this is the best stuff. And it's going to be interesting, when the science finally catches up and we can, look at how silly we were. But, I don't think that's going to be for a very long time. It's upsetting to see where the market's at, but every day we kind of have to be thankful that, at least we're here doing it legally and can be very much out in the open about it. So, I think that you have to take the good with the bad. At what point did you make that decision to go to brand with North 40? Like, I know that was always the idea, but that sales license and processing license, those were two licenses that, were in addition to the micro cultivation license. So, talk a little bit about how long that took and what that entailed for you.
Sure. So we got our processing license at the same time as our cultivation license. We're actually the first micro processing license in Canada. And then the sales amendment was a long drawn out painful thing because we went for all of our extracts, edibles, the whole 9 yards at the same time. So that was a long process. Now, and it was funny, like shortly after we got it, they started just giving them out like for the flower. It's like, yeah, cool. But being first and early to the game isn't always the easiest path. And it's funny because I think about how many times I heard from various CRA, Health Canada, municipal, provincial governments, oh, you're a trailblazer, so that's why this is, just bear with us. We haven't had to deal with this yet and stuff like that, but it was good. Like, it was a journey for sure. It was a real journey trying to decode what was acceptable for even like building materials in those early days. Like, you had to guess, there was no information that was clearly, identifiable, stuff like that. It was hard. And then, of course, getting our edibles and extracts license, that was quite a challenge too. They don't mess around with that on that side. Like they are thorough and they make you understand everything about that. And that's one thing that I am feeling pretty grateful for, is that we wrote all of our own SOPs, which forced us to know every aspect of that, regulations and the law and stuff like that, because there's literally nothing that we don't do. We're sending off almond brittle into Ontario. It's launching, I think, this month. Our hash rosin infused almond brittle. It's our first real hard run at Ontario, and we're pretty excited about that. I'd love to be bringing flower in there, but it's just not, the economics aren't there for me as a small producer. So, but yeah, so we're doing that, and then of course our traditional hashes we've got some rosin out there. We're doing rosin in vape carts now. I'm liking that. I've never don't feel good about saying this on this show, but I'm not a dabber. Like, that's just not my world. It's these old lungs are a little bit too
there's no judgment.
old. Yeah, no judgment. But I can smoke the hell out of a hash and tobacco joint, So I still respect the trichrome collections. I just like them in a little bit different format. Yeah. And that traditional hash thing is
you have the nicest traditional hash that I've seen anyone rock around with recently at any kind of conference up here in Canada. And you know what you like, and you know how you like it. And I think that's that's going to resonate. There's like, when you look at like the Deloitte numbers and things like that, the market is screaming for a more traditional hashish offering. It's slowly starting to pick up, but I think that's really has to do with the population that those kind of accounting firms have access to. I think that the legacy dabbing community is massively underrepresented in those numbers, but I think that it's still very valid that there's a large consuming population that wants that more traditional style, traditional pressed hashish. And so I think that, coming to the market, it's going to be really interesting. Like, have you had that? Have you have your hash on the market currently?
Oh yeah.
And so how has it been received?
It started slow. I'm not going to lie. It was, we were building up quite a stockpile of it. And, I was starting to think about other things that we could be doing with these trikes. And, but I'm going to say that in the last probably 3 months, that has really changed. In fact, my hash maker is in there making hash right now on a Sunday afternoon because we have orders to fill. And it's been flying out of here, like flying out of here. So that's exciting, but at the same time, it's going to be a challenge because I can't produce that much of it. It's not something you make a lot of, and if you make it the way we make it, you're using the best of the best, and there's not a lot of that. The way we're doing things, like, you know, it's these trike heads that we're collecting. It's pretty specific how we're doing it, and under what conditions to get the end results of what we have. But
are you comfortable talking about that? Like, are you grabbing a full spectrum? And no, no, that's okay. You're allowed. Everybody's allowed.
Dude, if you knew how long it took us to figure this shit out, and I don't know, like maybe I'm a moron. Maybe like people can figure it out easier than I could, but it took us a lot of time to get this product now. Like, I'm telling you, we got it dialed in now. Like, everything we're touching now, like we can look at trikes now and say, nope, that's not going to be a very good hash maker for what we're doing now. So yeah, I don't want to share that yet.
That's fine. That's,
you know,
that's very cool.
And you talked about having the best product out there. I don't know if we do or not. I watch and I see what people are saying, and I'm on Reddit and I'm on Twitter, and you know, somebody will ask, oh, what's the best hash? And we're like, there's a little circle that we get some recognition in, probably on Twitter, but because we have such limited exposure, our hash isn't really, other than through my medical program, it's not getting a ton of exposure. A bit more now because we're on some more medical platforms now, and it's starting to get there, but we're not getting mentioned in the top hash makers yet in a lot of circles. So there's a lot of room for growth there. I just don't know if I've got the capacity, and I don't mean the knowledge or the know-how, but the capacity of trikes to make enough to get beyond the market that we're serving right now. Because, like I said, look at Sunday afternoon, we're making stuff that has to happen. So yeah, it's a super personal passion for me. I knew what I wanted, and I didn't know how to get blinked out there for a second. We don't have the capacity to have acres of weed and smack the trikes out of it and age it, and, you know, and stuff like that. We have to find shortcuts, and then still get the results that we wanted. And I think we're there. I'm really, really happy. The hash I smoke now is just, it's great. It makes me smile. It's something I've missed since it left, when the weed got so good. Smoked a lot of shitty hash for the last 20 years, but no more. Not as long as I got a weed company anyhow.
That's awesome. I mean, I don't think the mindset of like, oh, well, we can't produce enough for across Canada. Like, what I really want to see is a boutique producer like you become more and more expensive and more sought after. And, you know, the margin become thicker and thicker, because that's what you're seeing in every other industry, is that ultra premium is able to charge that ultra premium. So I hope that, you know, you continue to put it out and it continues to increase in demand, because you know, that's how we can get this tiered system that better demonstrates to the consumer true value. Because I mean, there's been things in the legal system when I've gone in and bought a large grab bag of different things, looked at their prices, opened them up, and the value is very does not correlate with the price. So I think that when we can really get a system where we have quality correlating with price and consistency, is you know, when we're going to bring a lot more consumer confidence. So I commend you. I know the products that you're bringing to market, and I'm a big fan. So, you know, what has been your experience with the medical side of things, you know, I know you have your own medical platform and your own patients, and then you as mentioned prior, you are on other medical platforms. Do you feel as though there's going to be a renaissance of medical users because of this flawed system on the recreational side?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. A renaissance, I'm not sure.
My,
I,
my
I,
only thought, my only comment to that is that, you know, you're not able to, you're able to access, if I'm a patient of North 40s, I'm able to access that material fresher, faster, and directly to my door. And so that advantage alone is going to push a connoisseur to examine whether he can get the company that he wants to access through medical channels on a quality basis alone.
yeah, and I would imagine I have patients that would fall under that category now. The downside to it is it takes a little bit of work to do it, and you know, it is for medical patients and people with medical needs, and it's something I take pretty serious. Like, I'm a medical user myself. I've got a terrible back, and cannabis helps me get through every day. So I don't know if there's going to be a resurgence, because even though it's pretty easy to get a prescription, I think a lot of people just won't be bothered. I think it's too easy now to just go to the corner store and avoid quite a bit of the hassles. I think that what might trigger somewhat maybe would be an elimination of excise tax on medical cannabis. I think that's something that's perverse and just wrong. You know, I don't care. I don't think you're going to find anybody who thinks that that's a good idea, except for perhaps some government people who are addicted to revenue. But it is a good way. I mean, if people want my products, the freshest of the fresh, I mean, we do on-demand packaging. So that's always really cool. Like, I mean, you phone in your medical order or email it to us, and we go to the cure can, pop open the cure can, pick out the buds, throw them in a bag, throw a stamp on them and a label, and you know, they're out to you that day. So that's pretty cool. Good selling feature.
What are your thoughts on resin blending or resin mixing? Is that something you do at your processing facility? Do you mix trichomes of different cultivars, or do you tend to want to keep those cultivars separate?
Yeah, I think that when we can offer strain specific hashes or rosins, that it keeps the interest going in people, and it shows them something. Like, I never had strain specific hash when I was growing up. What is it? Is it red hash, or is it blonde hash, or is it black hash? Like, that was it. Is it putty? You know, oh, cool, black putty hash. Oh, this is my favorite, right? So I think that's really cool. Keeps me interested. You know, yeah, I was just digging through my hash tray here, or container, and opening up all the different ones and seeing how they're aging and stuff like that, and keeping an eye on it. It's pretty cool. I'm way more into the hash world now than I've ever been. Yeah. What was the question?
Are you guys aging your hash at all? Like the hash that you're creating for the market, is it going through any type of aging process, or after heat is applied, is it going out to the consumer?
No, it's we age it for, you know, probably at least 30-35 days. Yeah, I would say, like, we're not intentionally like oak barrel aging it, or burying it outside and under the ground or anything like that. We keep it together as in a solid block, and then once we get like a decent size order, we'll package up what we need for it, and always keep a few packs, for the medical patients, because that on-demand packaging can only go so far. Like, it's not like we're going to on-demand package your pre-rolls or on-demand package your rosin, stuff like that, vape pens. But the flower, we do that. But yeah, so no aging.
Have you observed any increases in quality and aging of your own hash, like traditional hashish in your collection, or
I would say no, but hey, let's do something here. I got some farm gas hash in my hand here that was packaged in June. Let's open it up. Let's see what it looks like.
I'm into that.
I'm into it too, because honestly, I don't have any farm gas hash other than this. So here we are in the little package. Looks like it's got maintained its pliability.
Yep. Didn't dry out.
Snap it off the parchment here even a little bit. Oh yeah, this hash is going to be beautiful. I'm going to make a little temple ball out of it. Oh, brother. Smells so nice.
That's awesome. What's your preferred method? Do you break that up over tobacco or what?
Yeah, unless like if I've got the mother cannabis, like some nice farm gas flower right now, which I do, I'll drop it into there. That rolled up into a nice little ball again. Got a nice shine to it.
Are you able to talk at all if you're using any equipment with your hash preparation? Like, are you using any commercial machinery, or is it all by hand?
Trike separation is by machinery. First run of it, anyhow.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then like once it's the actual making of the hash, it's too bad my hash maker is he's not sitting here beside me, because this guy's he's been amazing. All I've done is told him what I wanted and go figure out how to make it. And then he'd go and he'd make something and he'd bring it back, and I'd fucking have to break his heart because he worked so hard at it. I go, buddy, it's not really what I'm looking for. Stickier, whatever, drier, wetter, fucking about 8 times. And finally, we were getting it dialed in closer and closer every time. But yeah, because it's all by hand, and I mean like by hand, like that's how we do it. So it's not easy. And the poor guy, like, he's small, like he wouldn't weigh 135 pounds soaking wet. Fucking, it's a workout for him.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. Well, I think, like, I feel as though you're such a great example. Like, you're one of the few examples of guys who have been very public and about your successes and failures in the space. You control your own destiny. You have your path to market. You have your license. You have your brand. What's been, what are the biggest issues as a business owner that you're facing running your business today?
Inflation is starting to kick my ass a bit. And of course, price compression. The margins are brutal. Like, we had a pretty public, not fall from grace, but pretty public fuck up here. We got caught with our pants down on a powdery mildew outbreak here that fucking just got too far ahead of us and out of control before we recognized what we're up against in sheer volume of the fucking shit. And so I elected to shut down the facility. Fucking tore out every living thing in here, gassed it, cleaned it, scrubbed it, spent 3,600 man hours fucking cleaning this facility. That was a big hit, as you can probably imagine. And then getting out of that hole, coming back online, we had every kind of issue you could imagine. We had viroids, we had bugs, we had root diseases, all from genetics that we were getting in here. Some of our own, I'm going to take a lot of the blame for that. Some protocols that were bypassed for commercial reasons, like, fuck it, we can, we can deal with this. We got to get this building up and running, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that, some hard lessons were learned there. But anyway, so I feel like we've kind of been mostly back on our feet now for, because this was 23 months ago that this powdery mildew thing, and I feel like about 3 months ago we finally recovered from that. So we're talking like 20 months to recover, and it's just the margins are just so thin. So there's so much volume you got to do to fight your way out of that hole. And trust me, we were in a hole. Like, it was, oh my God, payday's tomorrow and we have no money type situations more than once. And we were able to never miss a payday, and that's important to me as a business. I mean, we don't have deep pockets. We can't fall back on it. Like, everything I have is invested in this, and we haven't even begun to pay back our investments yet. But
Oh,
there, I'm good.
there you go.
Okay. So anyway, I feel like we're successful now, maybe more so because we're firing on all cylinders. We've got some contract work going on here. We got a hell of a team pounding out the pre-rolls. And our retail sales are good. Our medical sales are good. Our reviews are good. Our name is not tarnished and beaten up with many others out there. I feel we've been able to try and be as truthful and honest and open and share our shit with everybody who wants to hear it.
And do you feel it's that honesty that's kind of kept your name clean through the ups and downs, or is there something else?
Well, I think it gives people a chance to realize that North 40 Cannabis is really me and my team. It's not a name, it's not a company without a voice or a face behind it. That's for sure. And people like to cheer for the small guy, and we fit that bill, and we're the ones that the government invited over. So they wanted the legacy, the mom and pops to businesses to come over. So we did, and it's a good story. I think it's something you can cheer for. So I think we've got a shit ton of support from many people. Like, blessed, honestly, Jameson, to know of all the people on this journey that we've been on that have helped us, in 1,000 ways. I could never start to mention them all. It's just been amazing, and that has been a big reason for our success. Is we've been able to deliver good products, but there's many people that can deliver good products, but we built a brand and a story behind it, and we're living it, and if shit goes sideways here, you're going to hear about it, because I think maybe that's not even also not part of our story, is that we have had like stupid mistakes and fuck ups here that, and so be it. We don't, try and be open with people, and let the chips fall where they may. You're going to get crucified if you don't, and somebody finds out that you did something stupid in the background. And, so I try to be as open as I possibly can without, I don't know. I don't even know how to finish that. But
you were part of a very small group of legacy, true, real legacy individuals who actually made something in the early stages of legalization. We're starting to see a lot more legacy participants transition now What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel as though, it's about time and that's what's needed, or what do you see when you look to the market today?
I welcome everybody. Like honestly, I think when I think back of how far the just the product quality has moved, that bar has skyrocketed now. There's a lot of way better weed out there now, and I love that. I think that's great for a healthy market. There's going to be some wins. There's going to be some losses. Probably some good people are going to get squeezed out of things and that. But I think we just need to balance out the production with the consumption. I think consumers should be elated at the prices that they're paying for weed at the retailers right now. Like it's better than the old days, buddy. Like nobody was buying ounces of weed for $100 where I lived. Like it was $2.40 a fucking ounce. That's the price, for good weed. So
where's it going? Are we headed for a correction? The market is not in a good place here in Canada. It's not a good place in California. California is, very much dying on the vine. You have a mass exodus of a lot of individuals who moved there originally for the cannabis industry, who are now going to try their fortune in new industry, or not new industries, but new states that have newly legalized. And those states are struggling as well. What are your thoughts on the future here in Canada?
Oh, there's going to be a correction. There's no question about that. That's inevitable. It has to be. Like I said, production has to balance out with consumption. I can't imagine, and there's been a lot of talk about it, and I follow it really closely about how much capital some of these big companies have left and what their prospects are, and how many more times can they dilute their shares and stuff like that. Like I think that there's going to be some big guys go. I don't think there's a demand for their products at a price that will ever generate them profit. Like I know how big the hole it was that I dug, and how long it took me to squeeze out, enough to get back to par. Like my hole's tiny compared to the craters that some of these guys are having, and that money moat is going to dry up, and they're going to be exposed. So that's going to happen. I guess I'm just happy to be here. I feel like we're pretty stable, and that's a really weird thing for me to say, because I keep waiting for the rug to get pulled out from me again somehow, some way, and I don't have any confidence. People ask me, "Oh, are you going to expand?" Stuff like that. I'm like, no. I still want to see if this one's going to work. Like, why would I want to do another one? That's kind of the way I feel about things. I don't have a lot of confidence, and there's going to be some casualties here, and I imagine they're going to start piling up pretty shortly. That seems to be what I'm hearing. So, let that production balance out with the demand, see where the pricing goes. I don't think it needs to go any lower. So if a premium product can still fetch, a reasonable price, and I don't know, it's hard for me to judge now, because I don't know. It's I kind of feel like I get a little bit of a premium now for my product, because it's been consistently pretty good, and I think we have a pretty good following in that. But I know, like, I hear stories, they're horror stories of the prices that some of the good growers are having to pay, or having to accept for their products. So
do you see demand increasing exponentially over the next few years, or do you feel it will be at a graduated and regulated climb?
Yeah, I don't know what would possibly drive up demand any more than incrementally at this point. How many more new users are there going to be at this point? I don't know. I don't see a big.
I think the only thing that could act as a catalyst is regulation change. I mean, I think that if you were able to apply a more, California-esque marketing and branding and product array, which we're slowly inching towards. I think that could drive consumership. One thing that I find incredibly frustrating, and I want to know if you share this sentiment, is that I don't feel as though the Canadian government is going to change any regulations. I just feel as though they're going to allow the bending of certain rules, and they'll only let you know if you're allowed to bend that specific rule once you try to bend it. And I think that creates a system that's really lends itself towards large, more well-capitalized companies to be able to get away with and risk more, a potential fine that for what could have huge benefits in brand and market awareness. So is that something that you're seeing as well, or not something that you're picking up on?
Yeah, I kind of know the stuff that's going on with the paying for shelf space and paying for sales data and commitments to producers by retail chains and probably some individuals too. I just can't play in that world, and I don't think I need to yet. Yet or at all, I hope. My perception of what's going on with that is limited. It's basically, I hear what I hear and run up against it a little bit myself in some stores. But yeah, I think that there's going to be a bit of a reckoning coming in that department too, probably.
Yeah. I hope so. Do you see the regulations changing dramatically over the next 5 years? I mean, is that something that you think is a possibility?
No, I think they'll probably do something with edibles or drinks or something like that with THC limits. The big one is everybody's hoping that they're going to give up on the excise, but that's 2 levels of government that has to agree to that, and both of them agree to give up revenue. I don't see it. So I think we're going to have to operate within this tax environment, and I think that prices need to inch up somewhere along the line, because there's hardly any profitable cannabis companies in Canada. So I think that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, like I said, production balance out consumption.
So, I mean, with that comment, production needs to balance out with consumption. What is your comment to, the mom and pop legacy individuals transitioning into the legal space and applying for licenses right now? Like, what advice do you have for them?
I would say it's, I'd say wait probably would be my advice. I don't like to, everybody's got a story and everybody's got a plan, and theirs might be way better than anything I've ever thought of. But it's a really tough thing to do. Make sure you know what good weed is and what bag appeal is, know what a strong nose is, know what fucking everything that you need to know. You should be a consumer minimum and a grower before you attempt to jump into this thinking you're just going to walk in and make money. That you're headed for heartache. If you're somebody new to the industry and you think you're just going to bullshit your way in and you're going to hire a grower and you're going to get these genetics and you're not going to get these bugs and you're not going to get this disease and you're not going to have any trouble marketing your weed for $4 or $5 a gram, it's going to be ugly. So know what you're doing, know what you're getting into. If you're thinking about it, keep thinking about it, keep watching, wait. Things could be completely different in this market in a year, depending on how things go. There's a kind of a new elephant in the room, I feel, is this unpaid excise tax now that we're talking about could top up at $200 million by the end of this year. That's in really interesting situation that some companies are operating without paying their taxes now, obviously. And I'm not sure what that does to the people that are paying their taxes and how that balances out. So I don't know. Could the government call that number in, and would it shut down 50% of the industry? I guess it could. I don't know whether they will, because I don't think the optics are great on that, but I don't know what choice eventually they're going to have. They can't. I don't think this is sustainable. I'd like to find out if the province, who receives 75 cents of every excise dollar, if they're still getting their payments from the federal government. So then the question becomes, if it's the federal government still passing the money on that they're not collecting, then that's draining a already increasingly small amount of money that I think they, if they have any at all, or else they're printing money or borrowing it to carry this on. And it's deep. It's there's a lot of angles to that, and I think that that could change the landscape in some way. And if they're going to do tax forgiveness, well, I don't know how that works either for companies that have been paying their tax. Do they get a refund, or how? It's ugly. There's no simple answer to that one.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, so I have to ask, as a license holder in Canada, do you feel it's responsible for the federal government to continue to grant licenses?
Yeah, you can't have government dictating business. The government needs to stay out of business. What if I was the guy standing on the outside of the fence and I wanted to come in?
No. I completely understand, and I don't. I that's not my opinion. It's my question to ask, because I know I've talked to others who are struggling to operate their businesses, barely staying above above water, and seeing all these licenses being granted while these facilities are being sold for pennies on the dollar, and it's kind of a feast and famine juxtaposition that. And I completely understand every angle of the opinion. So I like to ask that, because it's a pretty bleak picture currently in Canada when you look at cultivation space, and you look at what's really happening and how it was sort of laid out to happen versus the reality of things. And I think that unless the government really removes itself, and I've said this more than once, the only place I believe the government belongs in the supply chain is in testing, because right now we've got a system similar to every other system in every other legalized state, to my knowledge, that where you've got privatized labs giving out different tests that are giving out different values. Those values are then or those numbers are then being provided with a value on that meat product, and that's what you're being based upon as a farmer on your remuneration. And if there's one place that needs to be standardized and government run, it's the testing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I threw something out the other day, just it crossed my mind, and it comes with its own particular challenges, but what if we just didn't have the numbers on the package? What if we didn't test THC, and you just had to take your chances? And it was like, I mean, on a medical sense, that wouldn't work. But in the rec market, you're going to find out if it's good weed or if it's not, and let the word of mouth travel, and let the bud tenders do their job. And we never had THC test.
That would be the best. That would be the best. But I mean, I just don't, the problem is the system isn't run by cannabis people. And before, when it was underground, everybody that touched that pack had some serious understanding around cannabis and cannabis quality. And that is not the case now, where you have an Excel spreadsheet and you have a meeting with 3 individuals at the OCS, all of which could have no relationship with the plant, who are determining the value of a COA, which is a piece of paper. It's just it's a system that needs a lot of improvement, but it's good to know that guys like you are in it and are in it with the patience to last. Like, I see every single licensed entity that lasting either coming from the legacy or teaming up with an individual from the legacy, and their decision on which individual will also be a big indicator of their success. Their ability to pick the right individual or group to then associate with, and then get the right deal in place. So is like, what are your thoughts on these operators teaming up with like legacy groups coming in through leveraging less than optimized licenses? Like, what I'm seeing a lot nowadays is that all these groups came in and originally thought that if they wanted to do any of the things that they listed on a piece of paper, they would need those licenses. They themselves would need to be affiliated with those licenses. And I think now people are starting to realize that under a license, there can be, arrangements made where you can come in and collaborate and get creative. And I think that that's where we're really going to see the new creativity in the space isn't maybe in the number of licenses, but being able to pull people in and quickly activate projects under existing licenses. Is that something that you're seeing at all?
Yeah, somewhat, I guess. Maybe an example of that is us rolling out that almond brittle. Like, that's my friend Radonna's recipe. Exactly. And she had a footprint in the legacy market with these things, and we were able to bring it to market for her, and so that's an example of how that worked out. There's, I think, I've yet to see too many suits for that really understand or have much of a connection to the plant. And I guess we'll see how it bears out for them. So far, I can't think that they got to be very enthused about the results they've achieved.
It makes crazy salaries. I mean, the salaries that are, it's so crazy. I don't know if they're paying attention to what they're achieving or not, but be hard to focus making that much money. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it to me, that what's scary is you see California, and that's not a good indicator of what's to come. It's not it doesn't show a clear sky. It shows more corporatization, more big business, more amalgamation, more mergers and acquisitions, and sort of a cold war of mids for a while the craft market develops. And I think that really uncovering regular daily users and finding that consuming market is going to be so much more valuable to a company than trying to convert somebody who's kind of curious into a weekend user just on a value basis. So I think you've done that really well with kind of building your brand and connecting with real users and medical users as well. So I think that you've laid a framework of solidifying your path to market. Like I've always said, if you want to, growing fire isn't enough in the legal space. You need to control that path to market. You can't be able to have somebody apply pressure to you easily, or else they will eventually apply that pressure. And so I think that you've done a really good job kind of continuing to solidify those lines of distribution that you have, whether it be through the rec or medical spaces.
Yeah, we've done really well. And I'm very fortunate. Never going to deny that. Good luck, good timing, whatever the hell it was. But no, it's a tough world out there, and you talk about applying pressure. It's funny because yeah, up until maybe a few months ago, I was highly susceptible to that pressure. Highly susceptible, and I publicly made an announcement. I don't know how long ago, but I'm going to say 9 months ago, maybe something like that, maybe a year ago, that I had bottomed out on my prices, and I wasn't going to drop them anymore. That the inflation was getting to us, and it was going to become not even a possibility of running the business with any lower prices. So it probably cost us some sales, but it just made me work harder to expand my market reach and reach out to those cannabis connoisseurs, the people that, fuck it, I'll pay $5 more for a bag of weed if it's fucking good, right? Like that. I always bought the most expensive weed. And I figured I couldn't be the only one out there, and that was forever. Like if a guy had two bags and one was $100 and one was $120, I'd want to know why that $120. Well, let me see that one. It's like, oh yeah, that is better than the other one. Okay, I'll take this one. Like that was who I was. That's how I always bought cannabis. As long as you can provide that value at a slightly higher dollar, and it's not even really a slightly higher dollar now. Like, there's some good deals on my weed out there. And sometimes I'm not even very supportive of it. I think that it's a little bit too low, especially when I see, people put my gear on sale. It's like, oh, why are you doing that? But it's their choice after they paid for it. But yeah. I was susceptible to that pressure that you speak of. Very few buyers out there. Terms are hardly ever favorable. Limited market access for small operators. They hold a shit ton of the cards. But like I said, we held our pricing and expanded our market, and it's working out for right now. So we'll see what the future brings, because it could go down. We could see further price compression, but I think if everybody kind of just said, that's low enough. Like, we're not making it now. Like, however many percent of the cannabis producers aren't making it now. Like, let's stop digging. If you're in a hole, stop digging. The problem isn't that you don't have enough weed. The problem is you have, your cost. Yeah, the wrong type of weed. Yeah. I follow Matt Lammer's MJ Biz a lot, and like some of the stuff that he's putting out, how many billions of grams of weed are in storage and have been destroyed and stuff like that. Like, I don't know what they can do about that. There seems to be some stuff that went down when all that money was pouring in, all that capital was pouring into the markets. That really, I don't know if we've seen it in that sense before, anything like it. Not that I can remember, and I'm no whiz guy.
I have this theory that, like, basically weed became legal and these suits got to look at the numbers on weed. And when they ran the numbers from the legacy and they realized what these bearded dudes had been doing, unbeknownst to them, for all those years, they got real fucking angry. And they got together and they said, we're gonna do a real bang up special on this industry. And I feel as though the fact that it was an outlaw industry that was transitioning to legal, and that there was such big margins during certain points in history, that the average corporate individual who might not have made a less than altruistic decision felt validated because of that to make that poor decision and do, perform that activity that maybe overvalued a certain asset or a project. Like, I feel as though that's what gave these individuals just kind of like the comfortability and right to feel like they could do something like this. Because if you took half of the money that was raised in Canada between 2016 and 2018, the end of 2018, half of it, and you applied it to some proper, individuals who are operating successful companies in the space today, holy shit, you would have an incredibly advanced system, cultivation, extraction. The amount of misappropriated funds was disgusting, and it's going to be a long-term black eye on this industry, unfortunately.
Yeah, funded capacity. That was like the like there's people out there that say like it was like they knew what they were doing. All they were doing was just jacking up the stock price. And
yeah, oh, that's what I'm saying. It was what was happening.
Yeah.
To the smart individual, it was blatantly obvious what was happening. To the person caught up in the excitement, it was a miracle, and it was unexplainable, and it was, it was not obvious that, this was a vehicle to produce money, and that money would then be moved out, and then that industry would be left to its own devices to survive or die.
Yeah, no. And like I said, when this capital starts running out, like when they've diluted all they can dilute, and they're still burning through massive amounts of cash, and when that cash is gone, that's when the reckoning is going to come, and there's going to be a lot of players leave the game at that point in time. So 2023 will probably be a pretty interesting year. I don't know if it'll look much like what the landscape will look like. If I knew, I would probably think about either investing or selling and running. I don't know, but I like
the individuals. Sorry, go ahead.
I like the industry. It's really interesting. I wake up every morning and it's like, woohoo. Well, most of the time, there's shit moments here too, but I love my job. Yeah. But better for like if you'd have told me, I don't know, not that long ago, but say even 10 years ago, say, oh yeah, you're going to be living in northern Saskatchewan, you're going to be growing, good weed and have a pretty good following out there of people who like your products, and you're going to have a business that 25 people are going to work at. It's I laughed, but here we are. So, and I guess anything can happen at this point.
The power of the plant, man. It's the power of the plant. I think that, as the shine moves from cannabis to psychedelics, and those individuals move from the one industry to the next, to the next, to the next, what the shine and the glow moves off the industry, who's going to be left behind are the real people who are really about this plant and the resin, and so I'm very excited to see what the future has to hold for North 40. What are you guys working on? Is it new product SKUs? Are you excited about new genetics? Like what's in the forefront? What's in your sights?
Yeah, so we are at a point now where we can't likely squeeze another penny out of revenue out of our facility. We're busting at the seams. It's like somebody kicked an anthill in there every day. There's just people scurrying everywhere. So I guess our we'll focus on just keep doing what we're doing good. And we got some new genetics. We always have new genetics rolling through because of our deal with Oko, which is Aurora is their parent company. And those guys, I really like what they're doing. They're constantly getting better. And like I got a new one coming again, and it's nobody's ever grown it, and it's kind of cool. I never thought this would happen. Let's back this train up just a little bit. I lived so deep underground. You'd have needed several shovels to find me where I was at. And to be now in the public eye as somebody who's kind of known, and some known enough that if I grow something and it turns out really good, and if I say that there's value to somebody by me doing this, it baffles me, buddy. Like I just it's a bizarre world. I'm getting more and more used to it now. But let me tell you, like a year ago, or some of that stuff, like
when we're at the conferences together, bro, and people are coming up to you like, "You're Gord of North 40," and oh man, like I love that shit so much. It's so cool to see, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and I love it. You know, a funny thing happened just the other day, and I guess it's kind of. There's something I want to mention. Because of where I live, like I'm freaking isolated. Like there's not a like a place where I can go hang out around here. Like my home is the place and that, and I, when I get a chance to interact with people, I take it, I enjoy it. So it kind of puts me in a little bit unique situation is that if you pick up a package of North 40 cannabis weed and you see that number down there on the bottom, that's my cell phone number. Like, and I get calls from people. So, which kind of leads me into this story. The other day I was taking a load of weed to Saskatoon. And I got a call from a fellow, and he had bought some of my weed, and he wasn't very happy. He felt that it was drier than it should be. So I kind of got, I take any complaints at all seriously, and so I get talking to him and that, and find out where he bought it, and when it was packaged, and then I start to explain things about the supply chain to him about it's not. We package it as fresh as we can, but then if it goes to like another medical distributor, it sits on their shelf until you buy it, and then time can pass. And weed is not really meant to stay good forever. And but I still felt that the timeline that he was talking about was a little short. So I asked him, I said, was the package intact and everything like that? And he goes, oh well, there was a little hole in it. I'm going, oh okay, well that's not very good. So anyway, to make the story short, it turns out this guy who I was talking to, he was just a kid. He was like 19 years old, and he didn't know anything. Because what caught me off guard is he goes, well, is it still good or should I throw it out? And I'm like, what? I'm like, throw it out? Why would you do that? He goes, oh, well, won't it be moldy or something? I said, well, no, actually, no, it won't be. I said, that stuff will be good for a year if you left it on the counter. You'd still be something left in there, but so anyway, it was, I ended up talking to this kid for like a good hour, just filling his head with everything weed, because, he knew nothing. Like he had seriously like smoked maybe half a dozen times in his life, eh? And just like the questions that he had, made me giggle a little bit, but it was really cool. So anyway, we had this interaction, and then at the end of the interaction, I said, okay, well, I'm getting close to my destination here. I'm going to let you go. And he goes, and I don't know if he'll hear this or whatever, but if he does, it was cool. He goes, well, yeah, okay, cool. He says, when you get home, he says, give me a call and let me know that you're okay. And I'm like, buddy, I said, I'm a fucking 57-year-old man who's traveled North America from tip to tip. But I said, I've been on my own for like long before you were ever even thought of. Probably your dad was born. So I'm like, I ain't phoning you. But yeah,
that's awesome. I bet you're the only CEO that has his cell phone number on the package of his weed. I bet you that's
sure.
Yeah.
But it blows people away. It blows people away when they call and like I answer the phone, Gord here, and they're like, and then sometimes there'll be like a long pause, and then they'll go, Gord, is this North 40? And
Gord,
yeah.
Gord?
Yeah. So people get a kick out of it, and I think it's an awesome thing to be able to do. You want to talk to somebody in the know at North 40 Cannabis, like you got the guy, like, and to be able to do that now. And honestly, like people thought I was nuts, you're going to get all these crazy calls and shit like that. People have been super respectful. Like I don't think I've got like one crank call, and like my email is out there in the world. My phone number is all out there in the world. People have been super respectful about that. And, kudos to them. That's the community. That's the community there.
You're a genuine guy. I mean, I think what won a lot of hearts and minds was the way that you put yourself out there that we touched on earlier in social media, and your wins and your losses, and shutting down your facility, and everything was shared, and your complaints as you were licensing, and your issues, and you were really transparent. And I think in this society that resonates with people, and I think you've done a really good job creating a brand, probably as good or better than anybody else in Canada, in a really short amount of time. And you've got a really fierce following. So I commend you incredibly for that, man. I think you've done a really good job.
Yeah, we always laugh a little bit about that whole brand thing and that, and fucking did it with like my marketing budget was like, I think I bought like, I don't know, a few hundred t-shirts since we were in, that's my marketing budget. So yeah, it's good because we haven't had a marketing budget, so there was a big hole there. But
yeah, the power of social media and the power of being genuine, I think that's really cool. Is there where's the best place for people to reach you, Gord? Like if they want to reach out, I mean, you've got your phone number on the package, you've got your email out online. I think if you Google your name, is that the best way to get in touch, or is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? Where's the best place to get in touch with you?
I don't know. Probably just email me at gord@north40cannabis.com, or my number's on our website. Like I'm all over the place. Whatever. It don't matter. You want to talk to me? Find my number. It's out there. Twitter.
Call me. I'll give him your number.
Twitter is where I am on. We have an Instagram account. We have a Facebook account. But I don't really monitor either of those. The Facebook one's probably dead. I don't know if anybody's doing anything on there. One of my daughters was running it for a while, but she's since moved on, so it's probably dead. But Instagram is one of my workers here kind of throws some stuff up on there now and again, and my partner plays on there a little bit. He's funny though. He's not a weed guy, so he says stuff like clean weed. And I'm like, what? yeah, we grow clean weed. We should tell everybody. I'm like, clean weed? Shut up.
That's too funny. So, are you doing any of the conferences coming up or anything planned?
Yeah, I think I'm going to head out to Vancouver there. I think there's one January 12th. Yeah. Forget which one it is, but yeah, I want to make that one. It's hard to travel from here. It's a big ordeal. Okay. I'm not, but yeah, I'm definitely going to make it out to that one. I always have fun. And you know where I have fun? I have fun in the same place you have fun.
Same place I have
Sitting
fun.
across from you, that's people just laughing and getting high. It was fun when we were in Toronto. Where the hell? No, Victoria, I think. Victoria, the last one. I was on that panel. We're outside and we're smoking like 7-gram joints of hash and dabs, and like the smoke still pouring out of my ears when I stepped up on that stage. It was quite an ordeal.
But you got it. You had a great conversation.
Well, just like now, buddy.
Absolutely.
It's not hard for me to talk about weed. Like I'm super passionate about it. I have a cool story. I like to share it. I don't like to brag. I try my very hardest not to, because I always think back of how many times I've been close to the edge of falling on my face and losing everything, and disappointing everybody from my wife to my workers. So I try to always stay really humble and just always think of how fortunate I am, because shit could have gone 100 different ways to get me to where I am today, and that goes back a long ways of the forks in the road that I faced, and we all face. And, to be here running a cannabis company at my age, fucking living the life. It's good. If I don't have to worry about the money as much as I have been for the last few years and can just carve a living out, fuck, I'm happy. Yeah. Who wouldn't be? What head wouldn't be? What stoner wouldn't be happy, right?
What head wouldn't be? 100%, man. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on, Gord, and definitely want to have you back. I want to hear about Duke. I'm definitely going to be asking you about him. But yeah, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking the time, and definitely love to have you back soon.
Hey, it's always, you know what? This is cool, Jameson, because I like just bullshitting with you. You make me laugh. You're a genuine, warm-hearted guy, and you're one of us. So it's never hard to talk and have a conversation with a guy like yourself. So good job on this, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for everybody watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.